To delve into Alex Crook's transfer notebook. By the way, if you want more details on transfers, the Premier League All Access podcast is back later today, tomorrow morning, and we'll have a full rundown of all of the transfer activity in the Premier League. Crook and I recording that when we come off air here today, a real in-depth discussion about each club's transfer activity. Do you want to start, though, by talking about Jadon Sancho? He started for Manchester United at the weekend. There's interest from France, apparently.
Yeah, strong reports in France that Jaden Sancho has been made quite a lucrative offer by PSG. I'm told there have been conversations between United and the French club about Jaden Sancho. They took place while United were initiating talks about Manuel Ugarte, a player we've mentioned a few times, is very much on the Red Devils' radar. At the moment, I don't think it's gone any further than that with Sancho, but again, it backs up what we were suggesting, that maybe this reconciliation between Ten Hag and Sancho is not necessarily because he's going to be a long-term part of the furniture at United, but maybe because they're trying to maximise his value. And I get the idea, if a significant offer did come in, then he would be a player they would potentially consider cashing in on.
Shay Adams to Torino. He's on a free contract, actually, isn't he? He's available without paying a fee for, and he's been linked with loads of different clubs, including Wolverhampton Wanderers, but he's going to go to Italy.
Looked like he was close to Wolves at one stage. Nottingham Forest came in to try and hijack the deal. Then it seemed the City ground would be his most likely destination. I know Southampton have made him what they consider a very generous offer to extend his contract there, a player who scored some important goals in the Championship last season to get Saints back into the Premier League. But as you say, he's opted to go abroad. He touched down in Italy yesterday. He's undergoing his medical with Torino today and will sign a 3-year contract, the Scotland international. I guess maybe he looks at how his international teammate Lewis Ferguson has done at Bologna and thinks, I fancy a piece of that. Yeah,
slightly different environment, Torino to Bologna. Bologna have done a brilliant job, but it'd be interesting to see how he gets on. Joe Hart went out there for a year as well, didn't he, to sort of rebuild himself after leaving Manchester City, and ended up having a great career at Celtic, and actually spent a bit of time with Joe during the summer. Terrific career when you look back on it for him. Maybe this will be great for Shay Adams as well. Pierre-Emile Hojbjerg is leaving Tottenham Hotspur, initially on loan, but with the potential of a permanent transfer to Marseille.
Yeah, a guaranteed transfer, actually, because it's a loan initially with an obligation to buy. We see this a lot, whereby players join on loan and then they only have to play a handful of games to turn it into a permanent move. It's basically all about financial fair play and balancing the books and staggering payments. But £17 million will be the eventual fee to include add-ons for Hojbjerg. Only got a year left on his contract to Spurs. I think it's been pretty clear, really, since the start of last season, that he's not necessarily a player that Ange Postecoglou... He didn't
do too badly, though, when called upon by Ange Postecoglou.
No, I'd agree with that. But I think he wants somebody a little bit more dynamic in midfield. And for Hojbjerg to go and play under Roberto De Zerbi, another Premier League player going out to Marseille, looks a good move for him, doesn't it? Yeah,
Joao Felix, are we going to see him again?
Well, this is a developing story this morning. Joao Felix, I think, is a player that Unai Emery at Aston Villa has admired from afar for a while. They were heavily linked with him last summer. Didn't happen. Obviously, they're getting some decent money in from the sale of Diaby over to Saudi Arabia. We spoke about that earlier in the programme, and I think this is a player that Aston Villa are considering a move for, and that would be quite an ambitious swoop, wouldn't it, for the Atletico Madrid star?
I can't remember where he plays now, because in the last few seasons he's been at Barcelona. Last year he was at Barcelona on loan. The year before that, for 6 months, he was on loan at Chelsea, and he was suspended for the best part of most of it. He started off okay, that Fulham game, he did all right, then got sent off, and then didn't hear from him very often after that. And then obviously Chelsea changed their manager again and everything changed, and they had a terrible end to the season. So, yeah, they sort of lost his services, really. So difficult to judge, I think.
He'd be on decent wages, wouldn't he? So it would be an ambitious move in that respect for Villa.
Yeah, I mean, his contract at Atletico must be coming to an end soon.
I don't have that information in front of me. But,
I mean, it must be. I mean, he's been there for ages. I mean, they bought him as a really young player from
Is he a player
football.
Who hasn't really fulfilled the potential that we thought
they
he had
paid
early
over
in his
100
career?
million euros for him, didn't they? Certainly that has not been the case. Yeah. Talking of players who've been paid...
his contract runs until 2029.
Yeah, they must have given him a new one then, because I think they bought him in 2019.
Didn't he extend his contract when he joined Chelsea on loan?
Possibly.
I seem to recall.
Romelu Lukaku willing to take a pay cut to join Antonio Conte at Napoli. every year he's on the move.
And every year to Italy, seemingly, because he's rallied against the move to Saudi Arabia. He could have gone there last summer, didn't want to do it. You almost forget he's a Chelsea player, although I was ribbing you a bit as a Chelsea fan during the Euros with every missed opportunity that transfer fee was coming down.
Listen, if he'd been a little bit luckier, then
he could have won the Golden Boot, as you predicted.
He would have won the Golden Boot.
But they need to get rid of him, don't they? Because he's on massive wages. He seems to suit Italian football. Maybe it's the slightly slower tempo because he's certainly not getting any younger, is he, or any faster. But you can understand why he would fancy playing with Antonio Conte. I think the stumbling block on this one is that Chelsea are looking for £29 million in terms of a fee, and at the moment that's a bit rich for Napoli.
Okay, Jayden Bogle. Tom Clayton wants to know where he's going.
That's gone through now from Sheffield United to Leeds. So, our newsreader can sit comfortably with that. There's a little bit of talk, by the way. Our colleague at the Mirror, Darren Lewis, is reporting Manchester City potentially eyeing Eberechi Eze if Kevin De Bruyne leaves the club. We don't expect De Bruyne to leave the club this summer, but I think Eze is certainly a long-term target for City. And a young player at Crystal Palace that Southampton, who've been pretty active in the market so far.
Jez Raksaki?
Yeah, Raksaki, yeah. At the moment, I think they're looking probably to try and sign him on loan. I think Crystal Palace would want to keep him and let him go off and get some experience. They were trying to loan him to a championship club.
Yeah, well, he played in League One a couple of seasons ago for Charlton, and I think was their player of the year. Did really well for them. Came back last season, didn't really get a run. Had a couple of games here and there and did all right. But never really got to display his wares. I think he probably does need a little bit more experience before being thrown into that Crystal Palace system on a regular basis.
Well, it's interesting when you look at Southampton's recruitment model this summer. Obviously, they've brought back Adam Lallana for his experience in the dressing room, but I'm not sure how many games he's going to be available to start. When you look at his numbers at Brighton last season, they've signed a couple of young defenders from the EFL. Dara McAntony spoke very highly of Ronnie Edwards last week. They've got Wood in from Swansea as well. Raksaki would be another youngster. They've signed Harwood Bellis on a permanent transfer from Manchester City for a pretty significant fee. But
that was an obligation, though, wasn't it? They had to play
upon promotion. But in all those cases, they're players who are unproven in the Premier League. So it's going to be fascinating to see how Russell Martin moulds this squad together and plays that brand of attacking football and manages to get wins, because of course Vincent Kompany couldn't do that at Burnley last season.
He did really well last season, I thought, Russell Martin, actually, to be honest, and we'll see whether or not he can maintain that next season when they attack the Premier League. Quick word on Liverpool and the possible interest in Adrien Rabiot. We understand that that's not the case. Yeah,
not the case. There were also suggestions at the weekend that he turned down Liverpool, Rabiot, to join Manchester United. There's no secret that United are long-term admirers and he's a possibility this summer, but no more than that at this stage. Of course, the difficulty with him is you've got to drive a hard bargain with his mum.
You're scared of his mum, aren't you?
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. She seems a formidable operator.
Have you had any dealings with her?
No.
You deal with a lot of agents. Have you managed to cross paths with her yet?
I haven't got hold of Mrs. Rabiot yet. Will she be at Goodwood? There's a few agents I'm meeting at Goodwood. I don't know if she'll be
Is that your
there.
excuse for going to Goodwood for 5 days?
Networking.
Yeah, it's exactly what it is.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.